Hi, welcome to Living Your Limitless Life. I'm Kayleigh Kennedy, business and mindset coach, mom, and your no BS guide to breaking through the stories holding you back. This podcast is your space to get real, get inspired, and get moving. Each week, I'll share the mindset shifts, strategies, and stories that have helped me and my clients build lives and businesses that feel as good as they look. If you're ready to stop playing small and start living big, you're in the right place. Let's go. This might come as a surprise to you, but you are not self-sabotaging because you're lazy. You're not inconsistent because you lack discipline, and you are definitely not behind. You are protecting an old identity that once kept you safe, and it also probably kept you stuck. Until you understand that, you're going to keep trying to out-discipline something that isn't actually a discipline problem. You may try to force yourself into a new identity that doesn't quite feel like it fits, so it won't click. Welcome to season 2 of Living Your Limitless Life. This season, we are not talking about doing more, we're talking about becoming more. And the main thing that we're going to be focusing on this season is how to overcome all of the self-sabotage patterns that are likely, quietly, subtly keeping you stuck. There was a time that I felt more disconnected from myself than ever. I worked in a corporate environment for a company that really did pride itself on work-life balance, but I was driving 45 minutes one way to work, and on all of those drives to the office, I wanted to be going anywhere else. When it came to taking my maternity leave with my son, I knew that I didn't want to go back to that job. I knew that I didn't want to go back to that lifestyle. Like many other entrepreneurs, many people who I've met, many people who leave the corporate environment leave for freedom and they leave for flexibility. Ultimately, they want to have more control over their time. Does that sound familiar? But here's the thing. This is what can follow you from one environment to another, where I've found so many entrepreneurs who trade the 9 to 5 for that freedom and flexibility, but it becomes a 24/7. So you're not creating freedom or flexibility or control over your time. Pressure is what many entrepreneurs experience. The pressure to get your business up off the ground, the pressure to grow, the pressure to achieve your goals, the pressure to become the leader, to become the entrepreneur, the pressure to do this and that. There's even pressure to prove yourself or balance everything. I realized something a while ago is this idea of work-life balance. It sounds really good, but it rarely actually feels good because balance has you shoulding all over yourself. You feel like you should be able to do it all, or you feel less than if you are struggling to do it all. You might feel like every area of your life deserves equal energy, because if you think of balance, it's this much here and the same amount there. And what creates balance on a scale is the same weight on both sides. That's how you get balance. And then if something feels off, you feel like you're managing it wrong or doing it wrong. Often this idea of work-life balance actually creates guilt in entrepreneurs when they're working or stress when they're resting. And it's actually a nervous system that doesn't feel safe in either area. It just feels chaotic. It feels like there's just too much pressure. And that pressure is where a lot of self-sabotage begins, because your system feels constantly evaluated. Like it feels constantly tested. And what's going to happen is it will find ways to slow you down. It will force you to slow down in ways that you don't want to slow down. You want to be intentionally slowing down in your business, not, having to take time off because you were physically unable to work, right? And that can happen. That pressure to perform often ends up taking people out. So if you were sitting across from me right now telling me that you feel stuck in any area of your life, whether it's business or personal, this is what I would ask you. I would ask you, where are you saying that you want change, but you continue to choose what's familiar? I would also ask you, What are you afraid would happen if you actually got what you want? What's wild, and it's so true, is the idea of fear of success. It sounds ludicrous to have a fear of success, but it's so common. You actually haven't built the nervous system to capacity to be able to receive the success that you want. So there's fear that you're going to sacrifice your family, or if I achieve this in this one area, all of my other areas of my life are going to go to shit. Like, this is what your subconscious it could be saying. So there is a fear of success. There is actually a fear or a feeling of responsibility around the things that you actually want. And that can form self-sabotage. And then the other question I would have you ask yourself is, what part of your identity is being protected by staying where you are? Sometimes we hold this white knuckle grip on old identities that no longer serve us. Like, well, this is just the way I am, or that's how I've always been. So like an idea of people pleasing, for example. The identity of not being a people pleaser feels so uncomfortable that you just lock onto the identity that you've been living with. So the thing about self-sabotage, it's not actually a flaw. It's feedback. It's feedback from your subconscious mind. It's telling you that something feels new or unsafe or uncomfortable. And we have a default setting that allows safety to always win, or comfortable or familiar to always win. So if your idea of success or being more visible, if one time you showed up and you received judgment, any idea of becoming more visible is going to get filtered through that past experience with the judgment. Or if there's a lot of stress around money, honestly, like, I know it sounds wild, but more money isn't going to solve your money problems. So if money once caused stress, more money isn't going to solve that. The past experiences that you have with money are causing financial self-sabotage. So when you try to expand in an area that feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar, or your subconscious identity doesn't align with it, you actually pull the brakes on yourself. And it doesn't mean that you're not capable. It just means that you're not yet wired for this new identity, for the new habits, for the new consistency. I want to talk a little bit about self-sabotage and what's going on in the world right now. And there's always things going on in the world. There's always conflicts and disagreements. I feel like for the past 6 years, I've been consciously saying, wow, the world feels really heavy right now. So it's not just right now. Well, why is there this heaviness? Well, fear is loud. Fear is the prominent message in the media. Fear is the prominent message. If you're not intentionally scrolling on social media, fear is the biggest message. Fear about money, fear about the economy, fear about making the wrong move, fear about being seen, fear about being judged, fear about criticism. And my late mentor actually used to say, if you let fear run your life, you've gone as far as you'll go. And this is what I know to be true. You cannot control what's going on in the world. You can't control the headlines. You can't control the weather. You can't control the market. I talk a lot about this with my financial service clients or my clients who are in real estate, who logically, of course, what's going on in the market is going to impact your results, but it doesn't have to. It only impacts your results if you let it impact your results. I know many people who have had their best years in years that they were told isn't going to be your best year because the market isn't doing well, right? It's all mindset, and it's all knowing what you can and can't control. So you can't control things that are going on outside of you. You cannot control the things that are going on in the world. There are things you can do to support it, but I'm not, this isn't a political podcast. I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff. I think that we actually often forget about the things that we can control, and the only things that we can control, and the things that are 100% completely within our control. And that is what you focus on, how you respond or react to things, and your energy and your attitude. And self-sabotage thrives when you give your power away to things that you cannot control. When you start to make that shift, that conscious shift, and it's a practice. This shift is a practice to continue to bring your energy and attention and focus back to the things that you can control and your mindset, something inside shifts and the things external to you no longer take your power. This is when you can start to overcome some of these more quiet self-sabotage patterns. I've been reflecting a lot lately, especially at the beginning of this year, I've now been in business for myself for 2 years, celebrating 2 years out on my own and 5 years officially in business, which is very exciting. And I reflect a lot on past experiences working in different personal development environments. And it's really interesting because when I look back on the lessons that I've learned over the past 2 years and some of my past experiences, I realize how much pressure was lying in some of those environments. The pressure to have big months and produce big numbers and big expectations. And I achieved things that I once thought were not possible for me in these environments. So there's an aspect to it that works. And clients were turning their annual income into their monthly income, but not as many as you would think as was marketed, because most people couldn't sustain the growth. They would still experience those peaks and valleys, which entrepreneurship is a lot of ups and downs, and that's fine. But having these months that were unbelievable, they weren't clicking, they weren't sustaining it. There was too much pressure around it. Too much pressure to continue to produce that result, to be the success story, to be that person who inspires others what's possible, which I think is great. I follow a lot of people who've achieved things that I still dream of achieving. And I do that because I want to remind myself what is possible. But my responsibility in this is making sure that my nervous system has the capacity to receive and to sustain that level of success. So this is that missing piece to scaling your business, is creating an inner environment that can create that sustainability. So if your nervous system doesn't feel safe to receive, if your nervous system doesn't have the capacity to sustain this level, you will unconsciously downregulate your success. You'll start procrastinating, you'll overthink, you might undercharge, you're going to second guess yourself, second guess every decision. Maybe you'll shrink yourself, you'll stop showing up. You'll get too busy to do the things that got you to the level of being as busy as you are, which I have clients, and whenever they're in a space where it's like they don't feel like things are producing, I ask them, well, the last time this happened, or to get you to this goal, what were the things that you were doing? So you were doing those things, then you filled your calendar, you filled your pipeline, and then you forgot about the things that were keeping the flow, that were keeping the consistency, that were keeping the clients coming in. So you find a sustainable way to be able to navigate all of the areas of your business, including pipeline building, nurturing relationships, the sales, the marketing. Like, there are a lot of hats. So you have to create spaciousness. You have to create a nervous system that is able to receive this level. It's not because you don't want to hit that next level. It has nothing to do with desire. It honestly has 100% to do with what your nervous system feels safe to hold. When I stepped away and created my own space and my own environment, something really shifted for me. I noticed that there was no more urgency that came from pressure. There was still urgency. There was urgency to perform. The bills don't stop coming in just because I started my own business, right? There is this expectation. An expectation to maybe hit the levels that I was hitting. That was an unconscious expectation that I realized. But I also noticed that one of the main areas of pressure that removed for me was feeling like I should be somewhere else. I should be further along. And that I had to prove myself to get there. And I've noticed this with a lot of people when we're talking about financial goals, is really making sure that you're building that safety and capacity for the goal and not just doing it because you want to be somewhere else, right? Like, there is a part of this whole idea of embracing the journey, which is super important. So when we're in this always pressure to perform or prove ourselves, it's exhausting. There is this saying that pressure creates diamonds, right? A rock is a diamond that turned into a diamond under pressure. And when I think about pressure. Sometimes we need a little bit of pressure, like a good positive amount of pressure to move. But there's also a negative pressure that comes external to us. So this is external pressure. So that pressure, that need to perform or that need to prove yourself, that's not a great pressure. That doesn't feel good. I don't want to achieve my goals in that way because it does not feel good. I want to achieve my goals in ways that feel good to me. And you know what actually happened was I created more consistency and systems and things that felt more sustainable and started to actually embrace the journey. I created growth without pressure, and I created expansion and elevation without abandoning myself. The old patterns of self-sabotage that used to show up for me started to dissolve. When I think of the idea of balance, when I think of the idea of pressure, when I think of the idea of self-sabotage, what I want to create and what I want to help more people create is the idea of harmony, creating harmony. And what harmony means to me is some seasons of life or business are going to require different things from you, that nothing is in balance, that everything is always fluctuating, that everything is always flowing, and that nothing has gone wrong if one area of your life is asking a little bit more from you than another area of your life. It's being able to move through all of the areas of your life with peace and with calm. I like to start asking myself, because I know my seasons are different than, the calendar seasons. We all have seasons, seasons of our life, seasons of business, seasons of in our personal lives. And each season might require something different from you. So starting to get in tune with yourself enough to know what each season is asking of you and to be able to listen. Because when we're in those seasons, we want to push harder. We want to do more. And often our default setting is telling us to push harder or do more. What we actually need to do is slow down. This whole shift can regulate your entire nervous system and create more safety and create more spaciousness so that you can actually receive and hold on to all of the things that you want. You can stop sabotaging. This season of the podcast is going to be all about talking about the themes that I've mentioned in this episode today, with the end goal to help you get out of your own way more and more and start to understand and realize and become aware of where the self-sabotaging patterns are showing up for you and why. And if you're listening to this, you've probably built something and you've accomplished something and you likely know how to work hard, but maybe there's still things that feel heavier than they need to be. So I want to leave you with a reminder that you are not broken. You've likely outgrown your current operating system. This entire season of this podcast will be about rewriting it in a way with a new identity, with more nervous system safety, to create sustainable expansion, more self-trust, more self-compassion, and really dismantle the subtle ways that high performers keep themselves small. You don't need any more discipline. You need a safer way to grow. So welcome to season 2.
Thanks for tuning in to Living Your Limitless Life. If you loved this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. It would mean the world to me. Plus, it helps more people find my show and we can create a bigger impact together. Until next time, keep dreaming big, taking bold action, and remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. See you next time.